Hi, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm going to be discussing the topic of divorce shame today. I'm in a process of writing a book on shame called Healing Toxic Shame Through Recovery, and as a part of the process of writing the book, I'm blogging 10 weeks in a row on the topic of shame and making 10 videos once a week on the topic of shame. So this week we're going to talk about divorce and shame. When we are young, idealistic people getting married, the last thing in the world that we think is possible is that we would get divorced. I remember when I was a freshman in college, my roommate was a friendly, funny guy, and named Mark as well, from Kokomo as well, and he and I ended up, after our senior years, getting married within a week of each other. And as he and I were talking about his getting married, he looked at an older couple and with almost disgust and said, "It'll never be that way with us." And I'm sure he's had a fine marriage, but I'm sure there have also been some rough moments in his marriage. When you're young, you look at middle-aged people like, I'm never going to be like them, but then sometimes you're like them and worse. So, and I think in our culture still that there's a stigma to divorce. I think it's one of the most common and the most painful triggers for shame. There's even more shame about being divorced twice, and the shame of being divorced 3 times is off the charts. I've had many couples through the years work extra long and extra hard because neither one of them wanted that awful, shameful moniker, thrice divorced. And I think that's something that can happen because we're really broken people, and if we don't get the therapy we need, and if we don't get the help that we need, and the paradigm or the teaching that we need, you can find yourself thrice divorced. And it's not a shameful thing in and of itself. I'm just saying that in our culture, I think it's shameful to be looked at in that way, but the shame comes from within yourself. So, and divorce is looked upon as a failure, as an abject failure. But the truth is that most of us are too dysfunctional and broken ourselves from the wounds of our childhood to have maintained a really connected, loving marriage for even 10 years, much less 20 or 30, 40 or 50 years. Excuse me. It's said that if there's a divorce in a family, that it's a broken family. And I hate that term because I've never met anybody who didn't come from a broken family. Everybody comes from broken families. What family out there is there who doesn't have an alcoholic, a divorce, a controlling parent, a workaholic, an early death in the family, poverty? There are no families out there that don't have those things. There might be families out there who are faking it real good, but we're all broken families, people. I like to tell the people I work with that it isn't failure for you to not be able to do something that you're not healthy enough to do. I recently used the example of you can't win a 100-yard dash if you got a broken leg. That's not failure. And it isn't failure to have your marriage blow up, because that's what your marriage is designed to do. And virtually every marriage is going to blow up, usually sometime between about the age 33 on up till about 50 is generally when marriages are designed to self-destruct. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. If you've watched our videos before, you know what I'm talking about. So I try to, in working with a divorced person, I try to give them the message, hey, you're not a freak. It seems like especially newly divorced women, they feel like they're sort of like freaks. And they soon find out that they're pretty normal and they're not freaks at all. We're all normal in our culture, and normal is dysfunctional and broken. So it's a joy for me to be able to try to lift oppressive shame off the backs of divorced people who really didn't have a shot at having a healthy, connected, loving, safe, relatively conflict-free marriage. They didn't have a shot, because there's I've worked with so many people who just have intense craziness up and down both sides of the family tree, with alcoholism and rage and sexual abuse and physical abuse and abandonment. There was no way in the world that the people like that, without intervention, without a great deal of really effective therapy, there's no way in the world they're going to have a long-term, healthy, fulfilling, workable marriage. So it's a good thing to lift that shame off of somebody who's beating themselves up for not being able to do something that they were just not healthy enough to do. However, feelings like regret and sadness, those I don't want to lift off of people. I want them to feel those things. I want them to cry. I want them to talk about the regrets that they have and learn from it. You know, recovery in marriage is about both parties embracing the pain and equal shares of the responsibilities for the marital problems after the bomb goes off. There's always going to be a bomb that goes off. And marriages end when one party points the finger at the other party and says, "You're the bad guy. You did this, you did that. You are the bad guy and I'm the victim." That is what causes divorce. That is what ends relationships, because it causes resentment and bitterness and judgment and shame. One party shames the other for being the bad guy. And that's the heart and soul of the message of Family Tree Counseling Associates is there are no victims, there are no bad guys. You married exactly the right person, and they are in your life to provoke you to do work on yourself. 5 years ago, I myself went through a divorce where a bomb went off, and unfortunately my spouse was one of the ones that pointed the finger and couldn't shift out of a victim perspective, which was really sad and really tragic in so many ways. I still dream about the marriage and about my ex. Just this week I had a dream where we were walking through a mansion. It looked like $1 million house, and it looked like we were going to be purchasing it, or we were looking to purchase it. And she said, "Look what we could have had." And I woke up with my heart pounding and sort of hyperventilating, and was real upset. So I'm grieving. So I know where you're at, and I don't have any shame about my divorce. I talk about it openly. It's I've had people say, well, how's it for business? You know, you're the big therapy marriage guy. You know, you get a divorce. Didn't that hurt your business? Absolutely not. It probably doubled my business, because I could so much more understand the pain of the people that I'm working with, and give me so much more knowledge and insight and empathy. It's been a blessing, not to myself, but to many couples, and also many people all around the world who read my ebooks and watch these videos. So I have a poem here that I wrote about the dream that I just mentioned. Also, the middle part of the poem is about my calling as a writer. And then finally, the final part of the poem is about, I have a vision of building a really healthy life in a healthy relationship as a writer, living in a beautiful house on a beach. And I write better there, and I'm more creative there. And that's where I'm headed, because it's a place where I can, I think, write better and more effectively, and it's just where I feel most comfortable. So the poem is called Houses of Belonging. The house of belonging is no more. It was swept away in a hurricane. In an instant. When I dream of what could have been, it haunts me like lingering death. I am left with the bones of my tales. I peddle them to hungry souls who chew on them in search of nourishment and meaning. It gives me great joy when that happens. Now I'm walking towards a new house of belonging, a place of majesty and warmth, connection and spirituality and creativity. It's a true house, even when it's cold and dark and stormy. It hurts now, though, to be in between these sacred houses of belonging. Divorce obviously is no picnic. It brings about destruction on so many fronts. It's so destructive to your finances, to your relationships with obviously neighbors and friends and family. It obviously is hurtful to the kids. But I want to stress that staying in a highly dysfunctional situation is very damaging on the kids, if not more so. If you had to choose between getting a divorce and then getting emotionally healthy versus staying married and neither of you getting healthy, I can guarantee you which kids would be better off after that, and it would be the divorce family, guarantee you. It's all about, are both people able to do the work and create a marriage that really is workable, that has more windows of heaven than windows of hell. Divorce isn't natural. It hurts everyone deeply. But the pain can be extremely redemptive. It can be a turning point, a hitting bottom, a place in life where you shift away from myths that aren't true and fairy tales about who our families are and where we came from, and instead deal with the truth of who we are and what things are in the marriage. So hitting bottom is what needs to happen. In our work, we don't really ever want to see somebody get divorced, but we're pretty big advocates of getting separated. because separation can raise that ceiling up, that bottom up, to where people hit bottom sooner, and they get in enough pain to get in recovery for their issues. Recovery is just knowing the truth about yourself and working hard and working effectively on your stuff. So if a separation can motivate, for instance, a man to be humble and broken and teachable, and to love his wife better and hear his wife better, and if that's the only thing that will cause him to leave an illicit relationship or to deal with an addiction, desperate times call for desperate measures. Marriages are designed by Mother Nature to not work. To not work. To blow up and to be a reenactment of the exact type of dysfunction that you grew up in. There's my dog, Mr. Polly, barking in the background. He must see a bunny out there or something, so I apologize for that. So that's what we do. We pick experts at hurting us, who are like the most dysfunctional aspect of our parents. And of course that's going to blow up. Once the initial enmeshment or closeness wears off after 7 years or so, year 10, year 12, year 15, year 17, year 20, you're not going to be close, and you're going to live with somebody who has the worst qualities of your parents. And if you're not careful, they'll be an assassin. They'll cut your liver out, psychologically speaking. So, my friends, if you're divorced, you have nothing to be ashamed of. It is tragic, but it's not the end of the world for you. It certainly isn't the end of the world for your children. My kids are thriving. They're all getting excellent grades. They're very popular. They have friends. They're traveling. They're interesting, well-adjusted, happy kids. So your potential certainly is taking a ding. I'm still sort of digging out of the financial hole of my situation, and there will be that. But you can create a new house of belonging, and I don't just mean to find another person. The answer isn't to find a person. The answer is to become the right person, to become healthier, to not be addicted all the time with various addictions, to feel your feelings, to know the truth of who you are and where you came from. Then you find somebody who also is doing that work. But the fact that the marriage blew up and you took some shrapnel and you didn't have the insight and the understanding of how to fix it, or your spouse just wasn't somebody who was able or ready to do the work, don't beat yourself up. Don't be ashamed. That is the human condition. And it really is a wonder that, the divorce rate isn't 85-90%. I'll say this, the divorce rate is over 50%, but then there's probably another 30-40%. They're not divorced, but they're not happy. I think in terms of people being really happy, it's people who are newly married and people that have done a lot of work on themselves. Those are the people who are relatively happy. The newly together they're just stoned. I don't know if they're happy, they're high. So learn from the mistakes that you made and have healthy regret and remorse and make amends and heal from your mistakes and your addictions and the damage that were part of the demise of your marriage. But don't beat yourself up in shame. Shake off the dust and the dirt of your shame and get walking down a path of creating a better you, a better relationship, a better life, and a much better house of belonging. So shame tells you awful things about yourself, and just because you're a divorced person, you're just a human being. And those people in Boston who were standing there at the marathon and the bomb went off and it it sent some shrapnel into their legs. They didn't do anything wrong, and it really honestly is a similar thing. There is a ticking time bomb in every marriage because there are deep wounds inside of us that only get exposed in midlife, and they can take you out. And if they do, don't beat yourself up. Just learn from your mistakes, learn from your issues, and get working very enthusiastically and effectively on yourself. So again, I want to support everybody out there in getting on our subscriber rolls for our YouTube videos. We've seen that grow exponentially of late, and we're excited about it. And God bless you, and thank you for watching this video.